First guests here. Right, you can. I'm gonna leave the door open. We've got the star guest actually. Hopefully she can be seen.
Get in. Join us in the car.
Charlotte, yes, in the special car, and she's brought me some paperwork as well.
Oh, I'm trying to work out what angle.
And everyone, the check strap doesn't work.
It doesn't stay open.
No. Hello, yeah, people can see you, right?
Yay.
So yeah, it's the picture's not amazing because I was on the webcam and then I had some technical problems, and then the webcam got broken.
Oh.
So yes.
Technology.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. So yes, welcome to Clement. So you're here to talk about why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a crazy challenge.
It's not that crazy, is it? It's all right. It's not that bad.
I mean, I would love it, talking for 24 hours. I mean, that's what people say I do all the time. So,
To be fair, with these, you just get these people. These are all the different viewers here. Oh, I use touchscreen. My laptop's touchscreen.
Oh, you just found that out.
I'm a professional. Hang on. So all these people here. So if you see any questions come up, you can. So,
oh, that's good.
but the best thing to do would probably be for you to first off tell everyone how much have we raised now? It's shot up.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was aiming for £1,000. And
That's incredible.
And it's still going. The car people have pulled it out the bag.
That is incredible, isn't it? Just through talking. See,
Well,
it's good to talk.
Yeah. They well, to be fair, that just giving thing's been going for a week or so. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's been.
So yeah. Yeah. Well, yes. Tell everyone, what is this charity about?
Okay.
And try not to make me tear up.
I know this is going to be a challenge for you. That so Sophie was my daughter. That she was diagnosed with cancer. It's called rhabdomyosarcoma, but people call it rhabdo because it's just a big old name. And she was diagnosed in the September 2020. She'd been unwell in the July and August by having stomach pains, feeling sick, and just feeling like not wanting to eat until like lunchtime. She kept saying, my tummy hurts. But as a 9-year-old, you put it down to lots of reasons. We did see a GP at one point because I said this is like becoming really persistent. But they felt a tummy and just thought, they felt it was a bit hard, but they thought it was probably a bowel infection. And then she went on holiday with her grandparents at the end of August, and she started bleeding on the second day of that holiday. And she didn't know what was going on. I mean, she was just turned 9 at this point. So she was hiding it until she got back, and then sort of said to me, Mummy, I'm bleeding, but I don't know why. And I was like, by this point, it was obviously 8 days of bleeding. We phoned the doctor straight away, and they said it would be a first period. And I went, this is not a first period. I'm telling you as a mum, I know my daughter, she was not developed in any way. This is not a first period. And but they brushed that off as it was. Then the next day I woke up and I just had this niggle, and I can only call it mother's instincts really. And I just said, something's not right. I know something's not right. She was still bleeding. And I said, I've got to sort this out. It was a Saturday at the beginning of September. Phone 111, who weren't brilliant. And they just said, if you're that concerned, take her up to A&E. And that's what I did. And actually A&E was quite quiet that day, which,
right.
I mean, it was part of the lockdown in September. It was just starting to get back in, wasn't it?
Oh,
but
God, yeah,
in terms of
2020.
children's A&E, it was quiet. Forget the adults, but children's was quite quiet at that point. So we got straight in, saw a paediatrician, and they said how long she had this lump for. And I went, what lump? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And they found a 12-centimetre tumour in her abdomen. So things progressed quite quickly. We were transferred to Southampton Hospital, and then on the Thursday, so it's a few days later, she had major surgery, and in there for about 7 hours, trying to remove this tumour. They didn't know quite what it was at that point, whether it was benign or cancerous, but as soon as they opened her up, they knew it was cancer, just by looking at it. And they couldn't get it all out. They got 95% of it out, but to get it all out, they would have to mutilate her, basically. But obviously they did major surgery. It was encased everywhere, touching all of her bowel, which caused huge problems. So she recovered from the surgery after a few complications, and then 2 weeks later, she started chemotherapy. So she did 9 rounds of chemotherapy, very aggressive inpatient chemotherapy, which, if anyone has had cancer or in a cancer treatment, knows how grueling it is. But for a 9-year-old child, it was, well, horrific is all I can explain, really. During the middle of the 9 rounds, we had 7 weeks of radiotherapy up in London, UCLH hospital, and that was in the second lockdown. So we went on the 21st of December and came back in beginning of February, up in London, and it was the second lockdown. So we stayed up there the whole time, just me and Sophie, because no one else was allowed up. And I've never seen London so deserted. There was literally no one there.
28 days later, that film.
It was crazy. I kept saying, Sophie, this is not what London's like. She was like, oh, it's really quiet.
It's nice
here.
This
is just not London. But everything was shut. Everything. So, which made our time up there quite challenging in many respects. But we then came back, carried on the chemotherapy, and in April she finished, obviously, all of her frontline treatment. And she then went on to maintenance chemo, which was me giving her chemotherapy at home every day and going in once a week for chemotherapy. But sadly, 8 weeks later, she relapsed in the June, and a new tumour had arrived in the area that she'd had the most aggressive treatment possible. I mean, how it got through that radiotherapy. They gave her a lifetime max of radiotherapy, the highest dose you can give. Her child possible, and obviously the chemotherapy, and they were astounded how quickly it came back, and it just showed how aggressive it was. And I think we all knew, we thought we're on a losing battle here. We knew we were up against it at the start, but this was a different ball game after going through all of that, and it just came straight back. So they said, we're talking palliative now, we're unlikely to ever get rid of this. And you have to try and weigh up a decision. Do you put your child through horrific, even worse grueling treatment when they are so frail and fragile, because her body was battered by this point, and obviously was still recovering from all of the after effects of all the treatment. She would have been hospitalised for most of the treatment and still have the same outcome, or do we make the most of the time we've got left? And it's a decision that, in a way, no parent should have to make.
No, you shouldn't.
Because there's no winning in either of them. The outcome is still we were going to lose her. So we tried some palliative chemo to try and keep her, give us more time. But sadly that didn't work at all. It carried on growing at the same rate. And Sophie said, I've had enough, Mum. I don't think I can do it anymore. And she was,
it's like a 9-year-old to have to say that.
I know, she just said, you wouldn't want chemo, Mum, it's so hard. And I just thought, this is her body, I can't put her through something more. And she said, I hate being in hospital, please, I want to be at home. So she wrote a bucket list. She said, I know, and I said to her, you know what's going to happen if we stop? And she said, yeah, I'm going to die. And I went, okay. So she was old head. I kept saying she's old head on young shoulders.
Oh, from the post you put up, it struck me that she was like so sort of like wise and mature about everything, and you think, where do kids get that from? Where they just pull it out of somewhere, don't they? And
oh, she did. But, I mean, during her treatment, she was so bored in hospital.
Yeah.
So she started painting ceramics.
I saw. Yes.
And she raised £6,000 through painting ceramics to buy toys and things for children in hospital.
Wow.
Because she said, it's boring in here. I want to give them something to do. So she never moaned, and this is what struck us. She she knew her fate. She knew, you know, she was, from the moment she was diagnosed to when she died, she was never out of pain. She, you know, the pain was off the scale. I can't even describe the pain. She was, the level she had, but she never complained. She was the most positive, happy, always had a smile on her face. You know, she just never complained. You know, if it was me, I'd be moaning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, same here.
I've just had, you know, just short of 10 years of my life that, and that's not enough. And
No.
she didn't. So she wrote her bucket list, which had some of the most incredible things on it. She got to meet Gordon Ramsay and cook with him.
She did some stuff, didn't she?
She did. She got to meet Gordon Ramsay and cook with him, which I thought was going to be the hardest one to achieve, but we somehow got to him quite quickly. And she loved that. And he did swear, which she thought was hilarious. I mean, in terms of level of swearing, it was only, he said the word shit, which actually was quite tame, I think, for him. But she thought it was hilarious. And he was amazing. And
did he call her an idiot sandwich and put her head between two bits of bread like that? Me.
No, he was such a lovely guy.
Oh yeah, I read it. I read the
so
book.
Not what you see on TV.
Yeah. No, I'd heard that. I'd heard that he was a top bloke sort of thing.
He's a real like family man.
Yeah.
So him and his wife came, and they'd brought all these presents and gifts for her, and they'd made such an effort. And he didn't have to do that, and he sent loads of videos to her afterwards, you know, on her birthday, and then
because she loved like food and that, didn't she? She was into food. Yeah, which is
loved
kind of where
cooking, loved her food. She used to watch all the cooking channels.
Or Saturday
like
Kitchen.
Crazy, or like Jamie dinners, you know, the Friday night dinners she used to watch. And then she used to watch, there was a cooking channel on Sky, I think it was. She'd just sit and watch. She just loved her food. I mean, I know where she gets it from, but she loved her food. But yeah, she wanted to be an adult for the day. I mean, what does an adult for the day look like? I said to her. How do I do that?
How would you look broke?
Yeah, I know, exactly. And she said, you go to work, you cook, you clean, and you drive a car. And I went, well, that sums up my day then. So
where did she drive?
She didn't get to drive, actually.
You just chucked her the keys. There you go.
I know, that was probably the hardest bit. We tried to get the young drivers one, but we just could not get it in. And I think the age bit, we had to wait for her birthday.
Yeah.
Then she was just too poorly. But she did. I mean, I said you can clean any day you like. Carry on.
You just
don't worry about that one. And cooking, she did lots of. But she went to work in Tesco's Basildon.
I saw
She did spent the day there, and she absolutely loved it. She had the
doing
fastest
the checkout and everything.
Checkout rate of the day, I think. That she absolutely loved that, and they were amazing. So yeah, she got to do some amazing things on there. But what she did leave on there is some things that she knew she was never going to achieve in her time that she had left. But she said, this is what you've got to do when I've gone, Mum. And to have that ability to be able to think like that just blew everyone away, including myself. I was like, I can't understand how you can think like that. And she didn't just leave some little things. She left some massive things to change. So she really lapsed in the June. We stopped the treatment in the July. We did our bucket list in the July and August, and it was intense because she was deteriorating really rapidly, and on high levels of morphine and patches, and then obviously all morphine. I've never seen so much drugs have to be given to try and cope with the pain that she was in. And at the end of August, her bowel got blocked by the tumour because it had encased it, which caused huge issues. So she was hospitalised. And she said, I'm not dying here, Mum. Get me home. Which was a challenge because she couldn't move. She couldn't sit up at this point. Her stomach had swollen up with all the toxins and everything. It was hard, but we managed it. We managed to get her home. They thought she would only last a day or two at home, and she lasted a week. She always pulled it out the bag when she defied everyone. But she did what she did. And obviously she died in September last year. Just turned 10. She was 10 in the August. And since then I knew I needed something, because to try and live with the loss of your child, if anyone has been through it would understand, but it's like an empty hole inside you that you'll never quite recover really from. And I needed a purpose. I had not left her side from the day she was diagnosed. I was with her through every single hospital admission, every single moment. I was a full-time carer, and then suddenly she was gone. So for me, I was, broken. And I had times when I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to see anyone. But I knew I had to do this list. She left. And it's like she knew before she went that my mum's not going to cope if I don't leave her something.
So did she leave you? Did she stitch you up and leave you some really difficult things to do?
Well, you see the list. This is her list on the front. I mean, this isn't just little things.
Oh, so this is I didn't realise this was the end of a bucket list.
This is her bucket list.
Oh, wow.
So she and we obviously talked a bit about, before she died, about what she wanted. So one of them, for example, was for parents to be fed in hospital.
Yeah.
She hated me leaving her. She kept saying, please don't leave me, when I was in hospital. But I said, I've got to go and get some food. I can't. I have to leave. And she's like, why are they not feeding you? And the person who came round and ordered her menu in the morning, I used to dread it every day. They'd come round and she'd go, why are you not feeding my mum? She has no choice to be here and you don't feed her. Why are you not feeding her?
It's something that people don't think of, isn't it?
I know.
You just, and you probably, like, as a parent, you'd just be doting on your kid the whole time. You wouldn't think to look after yourself. And if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after her.
Yeah, definitely.
But you don't think about that. You just don't assume that. In the worst situation, you think being in hospital, you don't think about you getting food.
No. And in the parents' room, which was sort of down the corridor, there was a microwave or a kettle. So no freezer. There was a limited fridge. There was a small, tiny little fridge. But that was it. And obviously every hospital admission we had was an emergency, rushed up because she spiked her temperature. We had to be there within an hour.
So
it's never like, let's pack a bag or, take things. And often, because of COVID, I wasn't allowed out of the room till my test had come back, the COVID test. So there'd be some days I wasn't allowed out of the room for a day or two. And it was crazy time. Thankfully that those restrictions have lifted now, but it was really tough.
Makes an already difficult situation even harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And then we've seen with the parents being fed that how much of an issue that is. We've got parents, when we first started this, that hadn't eaten for 5 days because they couldn't afford to eat in hospital. And I'm like, this is
not right.
It opened our eyes up. It's like Sophie knew that this was all needed, because we have been inundated across the country with stories of parents, struggling with food.
Yeah.
I know in King's Hospital, I had a message to say, I can't even make a tea or coffee here, let alone food. And it's so tough. And I know the focus is on the child and being well, but a lot of children like Sophie are going home, and I'm the full-time carer.
Yeah.
Like, she's not going home well each time. No. And I used to say, if we break these parents by not looking after them, someone's going to end up looking after them. And this is going to cost the society a lot more than if we actually look after them. It won't take much. So I took my first snap box up to QA in January, and it was just us as a family, bought loads of snacks and things to eat and put it in a box in the parents' room. And we had a bit of a battle to start with about, should we put it in the parents' room, because the staff were worried it would get taken, because if it's not nailed down, sometimes in that hospital, things sadly get taken. You'd be amazed at what gets taken there. And I said that we got Sophie's story on this box. I said, I really trust that if people see this, they won't take it. That if they know the reason behind this.
They can't be that bad.
No, exactly. And thankfully, touch some wood. Where's wood in your car?
That's the table is technically,
So we've been doing it since January, and obviously we're now 11 months in, and no one has taken that box yet.
Oh, that's good.
I am really pleased, and they are quite surprised. But I do think it's their story that's on there, and it's
give them something to read, and
I don't think any parent would go take a box of all the food that we're trying to give to parents. So We now cover 7 hospitals. So what started with one small
7?
one, with only one ward we started in, we now do Portsmouth, Southampton, Salisbury, Chichester, Basingstoke, Winchester and Guildford hospitals. Every single week we're taking more crates and crates. And just between Portsmouth and Southampton hospitals, we're doing 17 children's wards, just between those 2 alone. And crates and crates. We go for about 700 packets of crisps a week. Just between those 2.
You have to have a delivery network soon with like vans and things like that.
I know. Well, you see, we've got an office now that and the amount of food everyone comes in, it's all really organised, racking and everything.
Yeah,
it's
I saw the picture
really
of it.
organised. And everyone thinks, oh, you've got loads of food, and I'm like, you don't see how much goes out.
Really?
It looks lots, and we go through.
So it take no time at all to empty this.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Certainly not on some of the things we go through.
And it's just completely done. That's just done through donations and things. It's completely.
A lot of the food is donations at the moment.
Because companies actually donate as well, do they? Yeah,
they do. Which is amazing.
I've seen the Domino's pizzas.
Yes, so we do that. So we started that, I think, in about May. So we wanted to give like hot food to parents.
Yeah.
Because we can only provide things at room temperature, so pot noodles, mug shots, things that can be either microwaved or a kettle, which is a challenge. So we wanted to give them a hot meal. So we started the idea of the pizza night every Saturday night. So Saturday's Sophie's Saturday suppers, I think it's called. Yeah, I was testing myself. I was like, I've only been doing it for like
I've already
6
said
months
this
now.
like 600 times.
I know. And we take out pizzas and feed every single parent in all of the children's wards in Portsmouth. So that's neonatal, the 2 children's wards, and the assessment unit and the A&E. So every parent on a Saturday night that ends up gets a pizza. And so we normally deliver at least. Yeah,
so we're not talking like walking in with a few boxes. It's on a trolley, isn't it? It's like stacked up.
Stacked right up. Yeah, we love it. But each week a different company sponsors it.
Ah, right, okay.
So this what worked really well. So and the companies are loving it because you can see where your money's going.
Yes.
And so they get their name on the box. So we got a poster on it saying sponsored this week by, and has their name, and then we tag them in on the post.
And someone goes,
Saturday
there's
night.
a Domino's or whatever there. Oh, we should go there. And
yeah. And then we tagged that company in on a Saturday night on our social media. So it's a good bit of publicity for, and you've just fed every parent in the hospital.
Yeah.
And we're booked out till every week till end of May next year at the moment. So it's gone crazy on that one. Really crazy.
I didn't realise it was as big as this.
I know, it's
this is a full-time job for you.
It is a full-time job for free at the moment. I don't take a single penny from this. Because I want to achieve my wishes.
That's what I wanted to do, a charity like this, rather than some. I know a lot of them are worthwhile, but when you've got some guy at the top sitting on £250,000 a year, and you think, hang on, are we something's not right there? This is real life. This is
and making a difference where we need it to.
Yeah, because it's things that people don't think of, like feeding parents in hospitals. No one would have thought of that.
No.
And then
it's been like this for decades. I had someone that came up to me and said, the story you're saying is exactly the same as what they had 30 years ago when they were in with their child at cancer. Really? And I went, nothing's changed.
Nothing's
for
changed.
30 years.
But then things haven't changed as well, because it's not just that, it's things like sort of learning about the cancer, like in awareness and everything like that in childhood, because the budget for childhood cancers hasn't really increased, has it, much at all, in terms of like inflation and everything?
It is a big bugbear. It's been a huge eye opener for us since she was diagnosed, and I started delving in a lot into the sort of cancer world, really, children's cancer. And we say children's because they put 0 to 24-year-olds in the category, so any funding is under 0 to 24-year-olds.
0 to 24? Okay.
Yeah, so it's children and young people.
Right.
So it's not just what people think 0 to 18, which I thought as a child. It's actually 0 to 24. Just for example, Cancer Research UK, one of the biggest ones obviously in England, or the UK, and they invests 3%, so 13 million goes to 0 to 24-year-olds, which I went, wow.
So so the remaining 97% goes all to above
adults.
Right, okay. So some of these,
and a lot above, I will say. I mean, I'm not going to say too much because we have got ourselves in trouble before. But yeah, go and look up their reports. It is interesting. And my big thing is around the message that we want to put out is that childhood cancer is not rare.
no,
Your chance of getting your child being diagnosed is 1 in 450. For 1 in 450 by the age of 15, your chance of childhood cancer, and actually by the age of 20, it goes to about 1 in 320. So the odds are actually much. Everyone says it's rare, and it really is not rare. And trust me, after seeing we're fighting over chemo beds in kids in hospital, this is not rare. And this part of our mission is to try and dispel these myths.
yeah,
It is the #1 killer of children in the UK. Is childhood cancer. Yet there is no training for health professionals on childhood cancer to pick up the signs and symptoms.
so that's why she went through the GPs and everything like that. It's because they weren't.
Yeah, and some of the stories I have read of other children, I mean, Sophie's looks quite tame in comparison, but so many parents have battles and battles, from saying they're growing pains to saying it's just a headache or a migraine when they've got a brain tumor. Some of the battles, they go back. One I know had contact with the GP 20 times, and they sadly died from the cancer. It was too late by the time they got it, and it was classic signs. They even said if you're an older adult, I'd be worried about that you had cancer. I'm like, why not worried?
Still a human.
Yeah, I know.
Same mechanics, isn't it?
So we are asking for a national campaign on the signs and symptoms of childhood cancer. I saw our own MP 10 days after Sophie died, and basically said, I need you to help me.
That's Caroline Dinage, because she's running with it, isn't she? She's going for it.
And initially I was like, we were a bit sceptical, thinking, I'm not sure she's going to get this. And she was a bit like, oh yeah, we're doing all this as MPs do. They're very good at giving a spiel and all the rest of it. And I said, you just need to listen. Yeah. You just need to listen to what I'm going to say and our story, and then you'll see. And then run with it with me. And give her due, she has done that.
Yeah, I've seen her stand up in Parliament and bring it up. And
we got the first debate in House of Commons in April on childhood cancer. It's never
the first ever?
Yeah, it's never been debated in the House of Commons before. And Caroline couldn't believe it. She just searched back till records began, and it was flabbergasted that it's never been debated. She looked up how many adult cancers being debated, and you're talking in the hundreds of that, if not thousands, and yet never been debated on childhood cancer. So we got that, and we had cross-party support. Sadly, we're trying to get obviously some change, but obviously the government keep changing. It really is not helping us. Every new health minister, when the health secretary left, I went, no,
you've got to start again.
No.
It's almost like they don't know what they're doing.
Oh, I was just like, no, we have worked so hard, and now we've got to start all from scratch. So I will be going up shortly to see the third health minister in under a year.
It's like the Crown when she was welcoming in all different prime ministers. It's like, oh, hello, I saw your predecessor.
I know that, and it's so frustrating. But we've got this childhood cancer mission, which we are determined to try and make this through, and this will change how children are diagnosed, treated and cared for. So how they're diagnosed, it will be the signs and symptoms campaign we want out nationally. We all know the signs and symptoms for like meningitis for our children. Why do we not know the signs and symptoms for childhood cancer when it's the #1 killer of children? As parents, for Sophie, she had some of the classic signs when you're looking at the sort of list. And yet I didn't know what I was looking for because I wasn't informed. And that's not to scare people, because hopefully the majority isn't. It's a bit like as adult cancer, we're told about bowel cancer and lung cancer. If you have a cough for more than 3 weeks, you're going to go and check out.
You hear about it on the radio, don't you?
Yeah, most times it's not going to be cancer, but you need to get it checked out. Why are we not doing the same for children? And this is what we're asking for. So we are really pushing hard on the government with that, and Caroline is really behind us. So I'm really keen to just keep pushing that through. We're also working with the very top of the NHS. That Sophie's story got there really quickly. before she died. So she actually spoke to them before she died, and told them exactly what she thought. Which you can imagine, she didn't hold back.
Both barrels.
Which I'm so pleased she did, because they have just taken this on. And it's a real personal story. And they said no child has ever written a bucket list asking for things like this to change.
Yeah.
So
well,
they...
And adults, if they did a bucket list, it would just all be things they wanted to do. And she's trying to change, well, the world in a way. It is a legacy, isn't it? She's trying to change things.
Yeah.
That's
why we said that this was never going to impact her. She was never going to see or benefit from any of these things. This was all to make things better for other people. And that sort of summed up what Sophie was like. I would say she was such a caring and compassionate, and I said way above her years in so many respects. And she just saw the good. Her saying was, see the good in every day.
Yes, I saw that.
And she used to say that throughout all of her treatment. And we've got to see the good in every day, Mum. And I used to be like, God, those days I couldn't even see the good in every day. And I don't know how she is.
Yeah.
I've got to find something. I've woken up. That's the only good today. I'm still here. But yeah, she just remained so positive. And, you know, positivity, they used to say, you know, it really helps with the cure. But sadly, you know, that didn't for her. But the other thing she wanted, obviously, was improvement for sort of food for children in hospital. So one of the examples is that, like, a QA at Portsmouth, that they'd come around with the children's menu, and so one of them was like steak and kidney pie, and I'd be like,
what for kids?
Are you telling me this is a children's menu?
Actually, you would have been having that, wouldn't you?
I think as adults, I can understand.
She grew up on it.
Really?
No, I reckon so.
But I used to say, what child is steak and kidney pie? Unless this is just my kids that don't. But I'm yet to find many children
this isn't a fish finger.
Steak and kidney pie. And Sophie was like, that is disgusting, I'm not eating that.
Throws it back up.
I'm not eating it. She's like, just disgusting. So she actually, bear in mind she's a child who loved her food.
Yeah.
She got to the point that she couldn't even stand the smell. It was like...
But there is a smell with when you go in hospitals and they serve tea. There is a horrible smell. I don't know. And
do you know where the food comes from?
No.
Do you think it's cooked on site?
I'm guessing not. I'm guessing it comes in a bag and
it comes from Wales.
Wales?
So the food in Portsmouth, and quite a lot of the other hospitals actually locally, is shipped from Wales and then heated up and served for you.
Right, okay. Yeah. I'm trying to get my head.
Really interesting.
And the logic on that one.
And that's when Caroline found that out, our MP. She literally, nearly fell off her chair. She couldn't believe what she was. She didn't know that before. And this is something we're working on changing. And I've just been invited next April as a keynote speaker at the hospital catering conference in Birmingham.
Yeah.
This is how I don't know how I've ended up. I feel like an imposter every time.
Yeah, 2 years ago you like.
I feel like an imposter everything I go in. I'm like, how have I got up here?
How have you ended up sitting in a ratty old car in a workshop talking to a phone?
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to be on stage with Prue Leaf talking about food in hospital. This is going to be my crazy world that I'm in. But they are really hopeful that by then we've made some progress around the feeding parents. We've done a really big project this year behind the scenes. Obviously, not many people know.
Yeah, I know.
And there's some really good recommendations they're going to be making. But on average, the survey we've done is that on average, a parent who stays in, just the one parent, spends on average £15 a day of food in hospital to feed themselves, because the cost is so high. That I'm in hospital, and actually as a hospital it wouldn't cost them that much to be feeding parents.
No.
So we're saying that we have to look after them.
They could take the money they charge for parking and put that into food, couldn't they?
Exactly. Well, that don't even go to the hospital, does it?
No.
That goes to some big wig somewhere that's raking it in.
Well, I had it when we had our first kids. It was twins. So they were in special care, and I was visiting as often as I could, and if you wanted something to eat, you had to go to Costa, because it was in Winchester. Yeah. They just had a Costa. There wasn't even like Southampton where you've got like a shopping alley or anything. And it was. I remember going in and they got a panini on the first day they were in special care. It was £3.90 for one panini, and I thought, I'm going to bankrupt myself here. Yeah. You know, you get to the point where you can't afford to do it.
Yeah. Which is why we had that parent who hadn't eaten for 5 days. because she couldn't afford. She was having to decide at that point already. It was on the breadline of, you know, before her child got admitted to hospital. And then you haven't got that spare money to go.
You can't be in that situation. When you're going through something like that, you shouldn't have to be thinking about the basics like food and everything. You just...
So we obviously now supply the food to, say, the 7 hospitals. We are feeding hundreds and hundreds of families every single week. We have now, it took us 6 months. This is how hard sometimes in the NHS to get anything agreed. 6 months to get a freezer in Portsmouth. But we now have a freezer in the Portsmouth, in the children's ward downstairs.
What, just a normal freezer?
Yeah, it's just a normal freezer. This is the crazy thing, isn't it? But it's so much paperwork and agreement and who has to decide, and oh god, it's just crazy. It's
one of those things where people haven't looked into it, and if they had, they'd start seeing the eye openers, like you say, Caroline, seeing this thing about the food coming from Wales. How many other things are there like that?
I know.
How much is that you don't know? That's just...
And this is why our eyes have been opened up to this. So we provide, you know, the company Cook, where they do the frozen meals that they're like in like either the co-op. Sometimes you see the they've got the freezers with like Cook.
Do I have them?
And
oh right. Oh, is it the posh stuff?
Yeah, it's the posh stuff.
Yeah,
really
with the
nice
black label.
food.
Yeah.
Really nice food.
I know. I'm going to treat myself to one of those carbonaras one day. But
yeah, they're really nice food, and we wanted to actually find something that was really nice and nutritious and somewhat healthy, not like loads of crap put in.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to feel good in hospital. Yeah. So we wanted something that was really nice, really nutritious, that and was going to make you feel good, because it's around self-worth when you're in there. And we could buy the £1 frozen meal easily, but we're saying that's all you're worth.
Okay, I'm with you. Yes,
so we're saying actually we're going to give you a really nice meal because you're worth that. As a parent, we want to look after you.
Some small glimmer, if you're going through something really terrible, you eat something you think, God, that's really nice.
Yeah.
It's something, isn't it?
Yeah. You won't understand, I guess, until you've been there, but how much that just gives you that lift.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Of going, I actually had a decent meal, rather than that microwave meal that tasted awful. And we've been supplying them for the last few months to Portsmouth Hospital. We're about to start in Southampton neonatal, who've just got agreement for the freezer. So we can go and get another freezer.
For God's sake, it's a freezer.
I know.
It's like you could go and buy one from somewhere for £100 and stick it in there, but they'd be like, oh, you can't put in there because it's got to be certified and it's got to be inspected and it's got to go through the paperwork process. And 6 months later,
you could write it.
Well, you can see it, can't you? And you just think, oh.
I know. So we will be supplying to them as well. And the difference, of those who know Southampton, Princess Anne is across the road, so it's not even part of the main hospital. So many parents don't even come across to eat, and there's no facilities to eat in Princess Anne at all. So which is why we were, we really wanted to give some food that we already do our boxes of food, which gets demolished, but it's we wanted something else. So, and the Cook company have locally, they got one in Loxheath, the shop, big shop. They have picked us as the charity for next year.
Nice.
And so from February we will be giving 30 Cook meals for free every single week for a whole year, which is incredible.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely incredible that we've got that. So we'll be feeding, we know, at least 30 parents every single week a decent meal, which I'm so chuffed.
Yeah.
But we also provide like parent packs. So we have like boxes with all of your essential toiletries in there, your phone charger, you've got a snack, a notepad and pen, earplugs, try and help you sleep, everything you need. So when you're admitted in emergency, which sadly lots of parents are, that you get given one of them and to help you during your stay.
Yeah. I suppose you wouldn't be planning for it, would you? It's not like you're going on holiday.
No. And do you carry your phone charger around for your day?
Well, I actually have got it today, but that's because I'm going to need it for this. But yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, funnily, I can't find it. When I'm at home, I can't find it. So
no, most parents just don't carry it around all day with them in their bag.
Yeah, it's all these things people don't think about it.
Yeah, so we provide all of those. They get given the box, and they have a message in there for the parents about the need to look after yourself, which I felt was really important. And that whole saying is, you put your oxygen mask on yourself first before you do your child, which you think, oh, I'll sort my child out first and then do
on
it.
The plane, yeah.
But in order to look after your child, you have to look after yourself.
Yeah.
And that struck me at the very beginning of Sophie's journey. I passed out about 10 days in while I was in hospital with Sophie.
Really?
And I hadn't eaten at all really in those 10 days. I was so stressed and so anxious and worried. And when I passed out, and I just thought it was a wake-up call. And I'm glad it happened in a way, because I thought, if I'm ever going to get through this in one piece, I've got to look after myself.
Yeah, you've been through the worst of it, haven't you?
I've got to look after myself as well, in order to be able to look after her. So we really get across that message to parents. What we started in May, we only got a charity number in May this year, so
it's official.
Quite a lot.
It's official, yeah.
We have done quite a lot since that time.
Yeah.
We started accepting referrals, which was a scary thing, because obviously you open up the can of worms to anyone can refer, because we are, and this is what Sophie wanted, we are a charity that supports everyone in hospital. You just need to be admitted to hospital with your child to access our support. So that could be you end up there because you've got your baby with bronchiolitis. You could be in there with neonatal because the baby's poorly from when they're born early. You could be in there with a broken arm of your child, spina bifida, or cancer. All the range of reasons why you might end up being admitted to hospital. We cover everyone, and Sophie wanted it for everyone. She didn't want it to be that it's a certain illness or category that got you.
If you're in there, then you get the help.
She said everyone's the same, in the same boat, Mum. They're all here, and all the parents are the same.
Yeah.
They all need the same help. So we cover everyone. And to open up the referrals to cover everyone was a bit of a scary, when you think, I'm just going to swallow all this money up really quickly. Wow. But we are coping. Obviously, we are managing. So we provide support with transport.
Right.
We have families that can't even afford to put petrol in their car
at the moment.
To even get up to the hospital when they have a child with a long-term illness. We've got ones with cancer or other long-term chronic health issues, and they are back and fro to the hospital constantly. And they got to a point where they can't even put fuel in because they can't afford it. And yet then they can't get their child to hospital when they urgently need it. And I was like, no parents should be in this position of then having to find where you find the money to put the fuel in to get your child up. This isn't to go off on holiday. This is to put fuel in the car to go up to hospital to get the basic health needs met. So we fund fuel vouchers. We don't give any cash to anyone. It's all on sort of vouchers for different things, and we give fuel vouchers for families that get referred to us that they can then put petrol in their car. We've funded taxis when they needed to get home and they don't drive, and discharged in the middle of the night. And there's no. You find public transport in the middle of the night back to
2 in the morning,
from Portsmouth. Crazy. We've do bus passes. We had one that was in neonatal. She was having to go back, and obviously you probably know from being there, you're back and fro each day. And she was having to decide how many days she goes on the bus to go and see her baby in hospital with how much she could afford to do it.
Man.
And again, I was like, no one should have to decide. Like, no one should be in that position going, I've only got £10 this week, that will get me in for 3 days. In my eyes, you should be able to see your child every day in hospital. It shouldn't be down to money.
Was I doing that? Was I going every other day? Because we were. Oh right, because you were in Winchester and we were over here. I was working. That's silly. I mean, when to have to pick a day. I'm not going to go and see him on this day, and this kid could be like 9. So who's going to go and see him?
I know.
And they're on their own.
So we obviously cover the transport wise, which is one of the higher reasons that get referred, I will say at the moment, that there is a real issue with the finances for families. That we have clothing up at the hospital, and that's for, obviously, if you turned up in hospital in emergency, you don't probably want to sleep in that.
No.
You will be tonight.
Hopefully
you're not sleeping.
I say hopefully I won't be sleeping. But if I am, if it keeps streaming, that counts.
I
haven't stopped the stream.
Exactly. So we provide clothing that in the hospital. We sort out birthday parties. Sophie's big thing was that she didn't ever want to miss out on anything. she cried herself to sleep on Halloween when we were in there because she didn't want to miss out, and she got stuck in there. And I went, we'll bring it to you, Sophie. Just because you're in hospital doesn't mean we can't bring it to you.
Yeah.
So we got the pumpkin in, and she carved it. We had a little Halloween party in the room. And so we now do that for the hospital. We took up a pumpkin for every single child at the hospital for Halloween, and they all carved them. They did some amazing things, or some painted them if they couldn't carve them. They had loads of decorations and sweets, and they had goodie bags each, so they don't miss out. For Christmas, we've got lots planned. We're about to, we got over 600, probably 700 advent calendars in our office at the moment, ready to deliver to the 7 hospitals, so that every child has an advent calendar in the beginning of December. We never got that when we were in hospital, and I was like, we've got to go home. We've got to go and find an advent calendar now to get back in hospital.
It's one of those things, you can never find them when you want one.
No, and always sold out by the time you leave it last minute. They'll all be in my office. Anyone wants an advent calendar?
This is where they've all gone.
Yeah, I'll be auctioning them off now to a higher rate. So we do that on Christmas Day. We've got 4 volunteers going in. We're doing Christmas dinner on Christmas Day. At Portsmouth. So we're setting up a whole room. We're feeding 30 staff as well, as the parents and children in. Well, the children won't be.
No.
There's a whole issue around feeding children in hospital because of the whole food. It's a whole different. But the ones that are in hospital on Christmas Day are really, really poorly. They're the ones that literally can't get out because they try and get rid of everyone back home.
Can't think of anything.
So we want to make sure that everyone has a Christmas dinner, so we're organising proper trimmings, everything, crackers, the whole shebang will be in there. So that's all getting set up, and our volunteers amazingly working on Christmas Day for that. And we do birthday parties, so we've got one next week. He's been in hospital since September. His mum died of breast cancer in April, and then he got diagnosed with cancer in September. The poor dad has been through, and he's been in hospital ever since September. He's still not been out one day yet. We've been supporting them for quite a while, and his birthday is next week, and I'm like, he's gonna have the best. We're gonna give him the best birthday. He's had the worst year probably in his life.
I can't believe that.
So we've organised an incredible cake that's going to be going in. We've got balloons. We've got, he's really into football, so we're trying to get the Pompey football team to go up and see him and play on the PlayStation with him for a bit and eat some cake, no doubt. And gifts and things like that. So we love the birthday parties. We've done quite a few now. And we really love those. And we do art therapy.
Okay.
So Sophie loved our art.
Yes.
Really loved our art. We got an art therapist who started in September in her school because they built an art studio.
I saw this. They built an entire building. So it's Sophie's. What's it called? Sophie's
Sunflower Studio.
Sunflower Studio. That was it. Yeah.
She, as in,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a proper. Because she also said they don't do proper art at school. Real common. Don't do proper art.
Don't do proper art.
So, and she loved her art. She discovered her love of it through her treatment. She never really did much before, and discovered how good she was. So she's done some amazing drawings, and we've just it's come today. Her book has been put together of all of her drawings. It's going to go on her website. So it'll go on our website on Sunday night. I think it's going to go on for £3. Buy the book. It's going to be just her drawings. So it might be just the pictures of my child drawings, but it looks amazing. All together. Bound as a book. And so we built the art studio in April. It was literally a DIY SOS.
I see it.
Literally, it was built in 2 weeks. How it was done, because it's incredible building. Proper building.
And there's local tradespeople donating their time.
All donating their time and the supplies and equipment and everything. And it was like we created our own DIY SOS. It was amazing. And obviously now the children in her school can all access art. And we fund the art therapist who goes in 1 day a week, and that's for children who've gone through some really tricky backgrounds that can now access some therapy each week. But we've been trying for 5 months. We're not on the 6th yet.
The 6 months, is that the magic time frame? Is it?
It feels it. If I get it 6 months, I know now everything is 6 months. But we've been waiting 5 months at the moment to try and get it signed off. But then if it is, we'll be able to get them going in 1 day a week to the hospital to do art therapy for the children in hospital, which I cannot wait. That if Sophie knew that this was happening, she would be loving it. She would have just loved this.
You said it sounds more like Challenge Annika than DIY. It was, wasn't it? I've seen you shared the videos of it.
Yeah.
And it was like loads of people clubbing together, building this. It looks like a sort of, it's like a sort of hut type thing, isn't it? But inside it's not. It's really like modern. It's better than my house.
Amazing. It's got aircon and heating.
Aircon?
And
I might take
summer
art.
it's got aircon.
Next summer, I think I'll do some art.
It's properly insulated, double glazing.
Yeah. It's really something.
It's got a shop and then it's got the art studio.
So is it kids there, when they make something, they can sell it?
Yeah. And then the money goes to the 4 charities that sort of supported us during our treatment.
Alice's Ark is one of them, isn't it? Yeah.
Abby's Heroes, which is a local one in Southampton. Yes. George's Rockstars, who provide music therapy in hospitals locally. And Hannah's Holiday Home. They provide like a holiday away in the so they've got a few like caravans locally, and they just give you a bit of a break for free for children with.
No one thinks of stuff like this. This is the stuff that's really going to affect people, isn't it? If you're living that life, this is it's life-changing stuff, really, isn't it? It's going to make a really, really, really horrible time slightly less horrible. Yeah,
I know. But we had one referred. It was the day before Halloween. They phoned up and they said, I'm really sorry to call you on a Sunday. I said, I'm actually happen to be in the hospital because I'm delivering pumpkins.
As you do.
As you do on a Sunday. But I obviously just like working. And they said, we are desperate for you to help with this referral. And I was like, okay, let me get my pen and paper out.
Yeah.
Let's write down that. And this was a baby born at 22 weeks. Well, we all know at 22 weeks is early.
Half time, isn't it?
Yeah, not good. But he was 13 weeks into that 22 weeks. So doing well, But they found something in his liver. And they needed to be transferred to King's that day. On a Sunday. And the family were, they were on, minimum wage jobs. They didn't have a massive amount of savings, and the same as they had just spent the last 13 weeks of being in hospital, going back and forward every day at QA. And then that day saying, you've got to go to King's Hospital in London, you've got to find accommodation. The hospital had called like Ronald McDonald, they called a few other charities that provide accommodation, but everywhere was full.
London as well. It's not even.
And what would you do? What would you do?
Yeah, last minute room please in a travel lodge. That would be like 150 quid or something like that.
So what would you do? You've got no money and you've got no ability. So the dad drove the car up to go and sleep in the car for the week, the two of them, in London. And I was like, no parent. She was obviously expressing her milk. I thought, no parent has got to spend sleeping in the car in London while your baby is really unwell in hospital. So they phoned us, and I think the nurses, as nurses are, they're like, we can't go home till this is sorted. You are last hope. And I always say, last hope, thanks for that.
This is why people sort of say like the NHS stuff. They don't get it when people say that they're overworked and underpaid. But that's because there's a lot of stuff like that goes on, isn't there? Like, their shift finished 2 hours ago, but they're emotionally committed to this.
Yeah. We saw that all the time. There was rarely a nurse that stuck to a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, they're often there much longer.
Always there often. And we saw that throughout the whole year with, that we were there with Sophie, that they're incredible, the staff. You cannot fault them at all. But we managed to, that day, we managed to get a hotel. We got Premier Inn, the good old Premier Inn. Love
I like a Premier Inn.
We managed to get that. It wasn't too far at all for the time they were up in London. Breakfast and dinner. Love a Premier Inn breakfast. Full works, isn't it? And because they hadn't eaten on that Sunday. By the time we got up to London, they hadn't eaten all day. And they got up there about 7, I think it was, that night. So we funded their stay when no one else could, really. And I'm really proud that we did that. Sadly, the outcome for that poor little baby wasn't good, and he sadly died. I think what the team sort of said is to us is that they won't ever forget that time
Yeah.
that someone helped them,
Mm.
that and that were there for them when no one else
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
That they didn't have to spend the week, you know, because they would have ended up with a, you know, either paying and getting into debt for staying in and their baby still dying and then left with
Yeah,
a
it doesn't change the
debt
outcome,
bill,
does it?
or they would have slept in their car, and everything, and have a horrific experience already, even worse.
Yeah.
That so I'm
You're thinking of the mental health aspect afterwards, you know,
yeah,
like how do you...
definitely. It's bad enough as I know as a parent to
Yeah.
have to live with that, but and then the trauma of all the rest that goes with
Yeah,
it.
it's
And
only going to make it
I'm
worse.
really proud that that we were able to help them on a Sunday,
Yeah, yeah.
and they didn't have to spend their time in hospital, you know, sleeping in the car. I was like, I'm not having this. Even my husband said, just carry it on, just get it sorted, Charlotte, because that family cannot do that, because
No.
nobody's like, you know, you're working again. I'm like, because all my energy, lots of my energy goes into this.
Well, yeah.
But he was like, sort them out, just book something that you know, he was exactly the same as
Do
me.
something.
Any parent would really, that totally get that. So we get referred for basically anything, and that's what sums our charity up, is that we support families in hospital, and that might be from the whole range of different things that we can support you with, because we want to be the one that looks after the families and support them, so that actually their stay is not as difficult as it should be. And it is so improved.
It's still going to be bad,
Yeah,
but...
we want them to focus on their child being unwell.
Yeah, focus on the thing that
Not-
is bad.
Not stressing about how they're going to afford to eat,
No.
how they're going to afford to get home, that they're getting into debt because they're in hospital, and you know, we don't want that. We want them to be concentrating on their child being ill, not all the other factors, and that's why we try to take off so many of those factors. We've made inroads in Southampton, so now in Southampton, if anyone gets admitted to Southampton, please take this up. But every single children's ward, this is, that you get a £4 meal voucher to go and redeem in the restaurant now.
Okay.
Every single day while you're there.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is amazing that we have been in partnership with them and working really hard on that. That started at the end of August. And at Portsmouth, soon to be in the next week or two, I hope they start. We got volunteers going in twice a day, 7 days a week, go around every single parent.
Yeah.
Have you got everything you need? Have you got a tea? Have you got a coffee? Have you got food?
wow.
They'll take the trolley round with all the snacks and all the different things.
Little things like that's going to make such a difference, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they'll go make them a tea or coffee if they can't leave their baby or child, their toddler. They'll make sure they got clothes. They make sure they got a phone charger and a plug or whatever you need. That we'll have a whole supply of everything there. And they'll be able to access that. So that all starts shortly, which I cannot wait for that one. And that can easily be replicated around the country, to be honest.
Yes.
It's
Well,
a
yeah, it
really
shows it can be
easy
done.
one. It's taken a while, but we are really nearly there. So we're just determined to make a difference.
You are.
That,
You are making a difference.
And we are doing lots. A lot of people say, you're doing a lot. And I'm like,
There's
I
more.
know. Because there's lots
There's
more. I've
more.
always got ideas. But I'm like, we've got to make this. This is about, our tagline is about creating change.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's exactly what we want. We want to be the one that actually makes
But
some big change.
People can do this as well, because I went on the website and there are things that people can do, isn't it? Even if they haven't donated anything or anything, you can write to the MP
Yep.
and
We've been asking. We've got a template on our.
I was going to say there's a template on
Yeah,
there.
we've got a template on our Instagram and other things. I think that we've got the very top pinned there that you can write and ask for some things to be different. Or all the MPs are doing, you know.
I don't need to
Awesome.
because mine's the one who's in there fighting. So I'm happy with that, but that got me out of that one.
I know she's thankfully she's doing good. But some of the responses I've realised again, they give you a standard template,
Yeah.
which I never knew.
Yeah.
I
You thought, well, how do I write a letter?
I was like, you think the standard response back from the MP is a template.
Oh, right, okay.
So
Oh,
it's word for word, because I've had so many now. It's literally word for word the same. So when I get the odd one where it's different, I know that they've
you know, they
looked
read
at
it.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's really interesting. This is what I've learned.
Hopefully
so
they're not,
much.
they're not watching this now, because they won't be. But if they were, they'd know that. They'd be like, I need to change the letter because she's going to know otherwise.
Unlikely.
No, probably not. No.
I've said to quite a few.
They like
That's
old
the standard
cards, I don't
one.
know.
That but no, it is interesting on that, and we will just keep championing. I've said to them, I'm not going anywhere. I will fight to the bitter end on this. That
It's going to be the fella on Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, I
And he's
will
like, what are you
fight.
going to do
I
now?
will
I'm going to
just
write
keep
2
fighting.
letters a week, not
I
one.
will just keep fighting, because actually children, I don't want to be in a position where even my grandchildren, we end up in this situation again, or our friends or anyone else ends up, that their child either ends up in hospital and has the, you know, not all the facilities that they do, or they end up with diagnosed with cancer, and they have, and I say there's no winners of if you get cancer.
No.
I've had others that have survived and they feel guilty when they say to me, and I meant, no one's a winner here.
No.
You either have a child who survives and they're left with lifelong issues as a result of their treatment, or they die.
Yeah.
That there's no winners in it. That it is both poor, for them, and the side effects. You know, they did a study. In fact, there's no study being done in the UK, which is interesting, but there is in the US, and that was done by St Jude's, which obviously is the big hospital in the US for children's cancer. And they looked and they said that by the age of 50, as a result of their treatment as a child, and by the age of 50, that 99 to 100% of people had a chronic health issue as a result of their treatment. How is that a cure? How is that? And that's why I say there's no winners.
No.
That for
Everything
me
comes at a
doesn't
cost,
feel
doesn't
like
it?
a cure. And they might have got rid of the cancer, but you've just left. And Sophie, had she survived, would have been left with lifelong issues.
Really?
She obviously had radiotherapy to the whole of her abdomen, so the spleen was damaged permanently as a result. So she would have had to been on antibiotics every day for the rest of her life, because she would have had to look like it had no spleen. She would have had menopause by teenage years, because of it. She would have not been obviously have children. That she would have had chronic issues with her bowel, because his bowel just never recovered. From the very beginning, and the list just goes on. Their risk of getting secondary cancer increases by 10% every 10 years, or 20% every 10 years.
So if you start off with that as a kid, and then you have to go through all those effects afterwards, even if you've managed to beat it off, you're still worrying that it's coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fear as a parent, I've said to parents, that fear's for me is gone. So in some respects, that's, I've left with my child not here, which I can tell you is just the worst thing ever. And it breaks us sort of all the time. But I'm not living with fear that it's going to come back.
No, I suppose there is.
And that's why I say there's no winners. That you get.
You got the fear's gone, but at the biggest cost. Yeah, you can't win. Can you?
And I just really think that there should be some better treatment. She had the same treatment as if she got diagnosed so if she was diagnosed late 80s, she would have had exactly the same treatment for her cancer.
Not progressed at all.
No.
Well.
So the solid tumours have really been lagging massively behind the blood cancers in children. I mean, thankfully they've made big progress on like leukemias and lymphomas, and that has been brilliant, because that is the majority of children, if they're going to be diagnosed, will get sort of a blood cancer. But the solid tumours are lagging decades behind. There's things like something called DIPG, which is like a brain tumour.
Right.
And if you get that, you're told to go home and make memories with your child. There's not even a treatment. 0% survival rate with your child. How can we have that? How can we have no treatment?
It's 2022, isn't it? You just think, come on, we must be able to do something.
Which is why we want to create so much noise and so much, to try and push the government to try and do more.
Have, because they wouldn't have been discussing this in Parliament if it weren't for you guys, really, would they?
But I want more than talk.
I
told them the other week.
Talk's the first step. Yeah, we want action now.
I told them that the other week.
Yeah.
I went, I'm a year on,
and
I'm not the most patient person.
No.
And I said, we have made no progress really at all.
Yeah.
But obviously, everyone's saying you will make progress. And I said, we're not really. We've done a lot of talking.
Yeah, but that's how you need to be. You need to
talking,
have that where you kind of, you've achieved this much. That's not enough. I want this.
Yeah,
you always need to have. That's what drives you on to get the next bit. So
it is.
That's why you've achieved so much already.
And I do believe we will get it.
I think
really
you will.
do believe
I think you will as well.
We will get it. How long and whether I'm still in one piece by the end is going to be a different story.
Like naked on your bed when you're old.
We've
done it.
Room, yeah. I know, but we will. I am confident that we will get some change, and we'll hopefully raise enough of the profile. And obviously, Sophie, when I asked her about what hospitals to try and help feed parents, and I said, shall I just do Portsmouth for Southampton? And she said, no, Mum. I went, why did I ask that? I should have just summed that up myself. And she said, I want you to do every single hospital in the country. And I went, I shouldn't have asked it. And she said, because what about all the other parents and all the other hospitals and all the other children? And I went, oh God, I have created something. But we are being contacted by so many hospitals asking us to be in their hospital. Because they see...
the hospitals contact you?
Yeah, saying, can you come and ask?
Okay.
And I'm like, so we are getting big progress. So we are literally will be starting in the Marsden Hospital in London shortly, and we will be supplying all of that to them. So it's just been the logistics to work that out.
Yeah.
Because obviously to get our supplies from down here up to London.
Can people like volunteer to help with that, to help like moving things around, or?
Well, we think we've got some company who go up to there right next to there every single week.
Oh, okay.
So we've been like, that's how we do it.
You come and go with an empty van every now and then, perhaps?
I said, you just take this up to that hospital every single week. Job done. So, yeah, we sorted it. And this is why I think we can be in every single hospital if they want us to.
So that's the ultimate goal.
That is the ultimate. We just need more time, I would say. And some financial backing for us to roll out, and some bigger ones. The big children's hospitals slightly scare me because Southampton is so big. To do another one like that, and we send over 20 crates of food and drink every week to Southampton.
Alder Hay, that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Liverpool,
but there's like Bristol, Oxford is big.
Is
I mean, all of the children's where you're treated as cancer, most of those are the really big ones. That but yeah, there's only 15% of hospitals in the country feed parents in the UK. So we've got a lot of work to do. So if we can just get the NHS to feed them, my job is done. I don't need to be shipping boxes around the country to be able to do it. So
I wonder if they will.
I think we are making progress with it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. But I really do. I think we might start with hot meal a day, and then we'll be able to push for a bit more. But even if you get one hot meal a day, it's better than currently none that you're getting.
Nothing at all, yeah.
But yeah, we are shouting loud that and just so determined that that we're going to do this. So with our leaflet and our branding, so I don't know if people can see. Have I got the picture?
Up there with the phone on the...
I don't know if you can.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a... It's that's it. Yeah.
So if people can see, so this is the... Oh, got to go the right way now.
Yeah, you've got to work backwards.
I know, this is throwing me. So that's what it should look like, and you'll be able to see pictures we're on Facebook and Instagram and everything, Twitter. But we've got her branding. So she loved penguins. So the bottom of everything, you'll see a penguin. That her favourite animal was penguin. But she also, the reason why we wanted it yellow was because it's her favourite colour. Not brilliant for washing, as you can tell. Try and work out, is it a colour or is it darks or what? You know, it's
somewhere in between.
Yeah, and we have the rainbow across everything we do, and the rainbow symbolised that Sophie said just before she died. She said, I said, how am I going to know you're around? And she said, look for the rainbows. I'll send it to you. So every time we get rainbows, you'd be amazed how many photos I get now of rainbows from people.
You just,
and they're like, another one for you. That,
yeah, I knew about the rainbow. I put the rainbow in the, if people have found the stream, there's one in the background. I put one on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time I see a rainbow in the sky now, it makes me think of that. Normally I just go, oh, I'm not a kid anymore. Yeah.
I know.
It's just like light going through water. But now I like, oh, that reminds me of Sophie. It's crazy. I'm a 39-year-old bloke.
Yeah. But it's even down to the, I don't know if you've seen the heart on the Sophie's.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah.
That, as in like the dot, that, and that's because we noticed after she died that all of the drawings she did, she signed it Sophie and then a heart afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, we've got to get the heart
We'll incorporate
somewhere.
that, yeah.
We've got to get it in. So yeah, every part of the branding has got Sophie all over it, really.
So if someone's doing a running event, I mean, I don't really do running. I tried it once.
You just do cars and talking.
Yeah, I tried running once. I didn't like it. But if people do running events, they can run for Sophie, can't they? So I think a lot of people doing that. You can do all sorts of fundraising, can't you?
I think anyone can fundraise. We're on Just Giving. That so you can just tag our charity in, and you can set it up, or Facebook sort of charities. So you can pick that as like you might do a birthday fundraiser or anything else like that. But yeah, or we've got a donate button on our website as well.
Yeah.
So you can donate there. But yeah, it's just spreading the awareness, the word, and the more money we can raise, the more we can go and help
more people can be helped. So the amount of
area.
people are donating to this are really helping those people who are going through some horrible times. So.
Wow.
3,800.
You're going to get about 4,000 by the end, aren't you?
I joked at 4,000. Well, 3,800.
About a good 500 since you guys been talking. So.
Wow.
Keep talking.
See, all I had to do was talk. Little did my parents.
What time is it?
8:10.
Oh,
what's the next one?
8.
Right, I'm out of the car. Who's waiting?
A man who's bought a Ferrari, a very ropey Ferrari, but he's like become a YouTuber over it.
Oh.
And he bought it during COVID, so he called it the man who founded Ferrari was called Enzo, and he bought it during COVID, so he called it the Influenzo.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So yeah, he's still got it. I think he regrets it.
Well, I need to let you talk to.
I better,
Ferrari. I mean,
well, it's all right. But I'll get onto him, and I don't know anything about Ferraris, to be honest, so I'll be learning. But
no. But thank you so much.
No, not at all.
For doing this, it's amazing.
I'm inspired. You know, I thought I want. You know, I felt like I've not done anything. I was like, I've got to do something.
Well, yeah, if you're sat in the car now for 24 hours talking and raising money
I sit in here anyway. I sit here going, I like this, you know.
Oh, it's amazing.
But you see it driving around one day. So when I get it on the road, I'll deliver some pizzas in it or something like
definitely.
that.
But thank you so much to everyone who has donated. It makes such a difference, and we just couldn't do this charity without the support. So
all the money's gone to this charity, and it's going to help. And I think Just Given's been sending it as it's been coming in, so it's not even like you have to wait and faff about. It's been going straight to you, so it's working straight away.
Yeah, definitely, and it goes exactly where you need to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take a single penny. I work full time and a bit more.
Yeah.
And I don't take a single penny from the charity. I'm doing it strangely, crazily, as people tell me, for free. But I am just so determined to make a difference that
it's your purpose.
Make it better for families.
Sort of, how many lives have you improved? You know, it's crazy.
Well, knowing that we're feeding hundreds of families a week, that makes me proud every night.
That's your pay. Yeah. No, I could. No,
and knowing that they haven't got to sleep in a car in London. But,
I wouldn't mind sleeping in the car, but probably not in London. And probably not find a sick child in hospital.
No, exactly.
But yeah.
So we help where it needs to.
Yeah. That's what appealed to me, and the fact that it's things that people. This is not stuff people think about. If you think charity, you always think the puppies, the guide dogs. NSPCC and cancer research and everything like that, but nothing like this. This is quite specific, yet something that's really going to affect people, you know, because this is just things that people don't think about.
And it touches everyone. Yeah. I mean, how many of you have had a child in hospital at some point in their life? Oh, I know.
At least one night. We had one of our kids. Their neck was a little bit like when they were developed, because they were premature, neck wasn't fully developed, and we took him and we took him in, and the guy was like a consultant, and he said something like, oh, it's this torticollis, I think it was. He goes, it's like a tumor, and he said tumor. And we just both went whoa, and he's like, oh no, it's not like that. Well, don't say it then. You know, and I just that chill, that was enough. So to go through the stuff that you've had to do and these people, I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that, you know, I haven't experienced it, but...
And thankfully people don't, because it is, it will go down as the worst thing to ever have to witness. I
can't imagine anything worse.
Sit and watch your child die.
Yeah, that's the worst fear.
It is just horrific.
You're not meant to outlive them, are you?
No, you're not. And to go through all of that and then to try and pick yourself up again afterwards, it's tough, and to still do, because it's never ending.
Well, that's what I like. The thing I like about this can't change the outcome.
No, can't.
But it can make the ride slightly smoother on the way there, can't it? It can just take the edge off it.
Yeah. And I always said that after you died, I had two choices. I could have given up or I could have carried on. And if I carried on, I could have turned to drink or drugs or, all the other things that you might do to cope with your pain. Yeah. But actually, that wouldn't have been justice for Sophie.
No.
That she was, as I said, so positive and so happy and so bouncy and bright that actually the best outcome and the best legacy we could leave her is doing what she wanted.
Fulfilling her list.
And actually helping others. That is the most positive outcome out of something so negative. We can turn it around. I said cancer took too much already. It's taken the worst for us. It took our child. I don't want it to take anything else.
No, it's time to take something back, isn't it?
So we can take charge and we can not let it take anything else of us. And we can go and help loads of other people in the process. So
no, it's amazing work. And everyone who's liked it and donated and everything has a little part in that now.
Huge part. As I said, we can't do it without people's help. I can go and shout and I can go and argue with people and try and break down all the barriers and the red tape and everything else, but I can't do all the rest of this stuff without financial help. So anyone has any contacts with anyone got the big lot of that 1% of the country, send them my way.
The richest 1%.
Send them my way. I'll find how they can spend their money. They've got so much they don't know what to do. I'll find it.
Jeff Bezos.
Hopefully he's listening to you.
I think he's into old ropey motors. Unfortunately, the people who listen to me tend to be the people who haven't got the money to buy the newer cars. But I think the older cars are better, so I'm happy with that. But
well, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, no, I know, and it's really inspiring.
It's a very strange place to meet, in the car in your garage.
The things you all do.
I know.
Because of this charity.
I said tonight, I'm going off to meet a guy who I've never met in a car.
That's what I said to her. Garage. I said to her, "Do you want to come down here?" I said because it's pitch black out there.
Pitch black out there. Yeah.
A guy you never met
Yeah.
It's really.
I just said to a friend, "But don't come home."
Yeah.
Send a party out, someone to get me. So at least I'm going home. You're not a crazy man.
Can you work out how to open the door on a Citroen DS?
How do you do this?
Oh, hey! There you go.
Mastered it. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming down.
Get out now.
Oh. Wow, right. Wow. Seriously. Wow. Can you imagine being that inspirational?